sleep is great, but throughout our day, we're just taught to just keep going all the time.
Especially, I feel like moms.
It's almost like you don't have a choice.
Right.
Or when you do, you feel guilty or
Right.
ashamed of it that you did.
And it feels like you're supposed to be hustling like that, kind of, as a mom.
I think it's so hardwired in our society and our culture. Yeah. Excessive activation of the nervous system would be more sympathetic. So you're going to have increased tissue tension. So a lot of people will always feel really tense in their body. Okay. You will see increase, like feeling overwhelmed. Anxiousness is there. Hypersensitivity.
And does it impact you like health-wise?
Yeah, so you're driving more inflammation.
Welcome to Cake for Dinner. This is not your everyday mom podcast. We laugh, we curse, we tell the truth, and we're here to ditch the perfection culture. Dr. Lauren DeCicco, welcome to Cake for Dinner. So I think what would be great is maybe if you just introduce yourself and kind of what you do at your practice.
Okay, so I am a doctor of physical therapy and I have a holistic physical therapy practice. I really focus on helping people break their cycles of pain, chronic illness. People come in with manifestations, physical manifestations of trauma, anxiety, depression, and how it's showing up in their body, chronic inflammatory processes as well. And I break the cycle by reinstating safety and nervous system regulation back into their body so they can transition into a foundational state of healing, essentially. So we want to shift out of survival and into safety so we can optimize our health, our wellness, and even our performance, because all of that is attached to the nervous system. So it's very nervous system focused. I also obviously approach different subsystems of the body, like the lymphatic system is really tied into all of this as well, and how we can enhance our healing process when we address the lymphatic system. And whatever the particular complaint is of the client, like if it's acute injury all the way up to multiple aches and pains all over the body because they've been dealing with, chronic inflammation for so long. But then I also have high-level performers coming in who are trying to live a sustainable life without burning out. And every person I see, no matter where they're at on the spectrum, is dealing with chronic states of stress and how it's showing up in their world. So that has been my approach, and it's really, really changed my outcomes in my practice. And then going out and teaching it has been really, really powerful because people can see when they tap into this, it's really empowering because it gives you back the control over what your system is doing and how it's responding to the environment around it.
Okay, awesome. So I would guess that you came to this through your own experience. I don't know for sure, but like me, for example, I'm in the addiction space, and that is based on my experience. And I always find when people are super passionate about what they do, they have some personal experience. What brought you to this career?
I mean, I've been a physical therapist for 16 years now, but my practice was very, very typical, traditional, what we learn in school. Obviously, we go through the process of getting extra certifications and kind of tweaking our style and things like that. But learning this really specialized niche came from my own journey, going through really, really life-changing experiences, a really, really messy divorce, leaving in an environment that was making me sick, and discovering that the root of it all was my own system being stuck in survival. I mean, probably since childhood. And it started showing up with autoimmune conditions, gut issues, anxiety, depression, weight everywhere that I couldn't, like, if you look at pictures from me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was puffy and holding on to weight, even though I was super active and trying to do all the right things. But exploring through my divorce what kind of got me in that situation and addressing that and doing the work around that is what shifted my system, and things like my body pain all over, my inflammatory process all shifted with that. So it's like, wow, that makes so much sense that all these people, like through the years, we treat And 90% of people will get better with traditional therapy. But then we have this weird set of people that you do all the right things and they just don't get better. And I'm like, yeah, they're all stuck in survival.
So the connection between the emotional piece or the
really kind of how your history is wired into your physical body.
Got it.
And I just think that our world is so stuck in like hustle and on the go that most of us aren't even still or quiet enough to realize that we're stuck there. But we never have a chance to recover from our daily lives. I mean, sleep is great, but throughout our day, we're just taught to just keep going all the time.
Especially, I feel like moms.
Oh, yeah. It's almost like you don't have a choice.
Right.
Or when you do, you feel guilty or ashamed of it that you did. So,
and it feels like you're supposed to be hustling like that kind of as a mom.
I think it's so hardwired in our society and our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, this in the US, if you look at other places that don't operate that way and you look at what their disease process looks like, it's very different. What their lifespan, their disease process, their quality of life is very different. But it's so ingrained in us to just keep going. Yeah. And then when you go through, you know, I really definitely shifted my system when I left the relationship I was in that environment. And then I also explored my workplace environment, wasn't much better. So I left that as well. And that made such a huge difference on its own. But my children went through a lot of stuff post-divorce. And as much as I thought I had healed, we got thrown into a vicious cycle of family court. And I got thrown right back into survival mode. So I had to learn that it's not always about leaving your environment. It's really about changing your relationship with your environment. Because we don't always have the opportunity to just leave the environment that we don't like.
And even if you do leave it, I think the impact the environment has had on you, it's had on you, you know? So sometimes you carry that stuff with you. Right. And
yeah,
I think for me, it's obvious why my nervous system is a wreck. You know, I was a single mom. I've been through divorce and death and all kinds of shit, addiction. But how about people who haven't been through all this stuff? Like, is their nervous system just nice and cute in the corner? Or can you have a fucked up nervous system with a great life? Does that make sense? Like,
right. Like you never really had to go through necessarily like a big trauma or a compounded trauma. A lot of my survival was related to stuff that happened in childhood and then it got replicated in my adult life, and it was never really addressed. I was never even aware of it, honestly, until I had this like huge life-changing experience, which brought me the awareness of it. I also, COVID, like life kind of stopped.
Right.
That's really where I started seeing like life was calm enough to be like, or quiet enough. I wouldn't even say it was calm because my system was so used to
and also things shut down. So you weren't as exposed to as many things. You know, I remember during COVID, like realizing, oh my gosh, why am I driving my kids to 900 sports? Like, because all of a sudden I wasn't able to, and you just realize, wow, like less is so great, you know?
It was great, but also I was like, wow, like, what am I doing? Like I had forced to stop enough to really see what kind of life I was living.
Yeah.
And then being like, what the fuck is this? Like, this person's mean to me every day. Like,
Whereas
I don't even like my job.
Right.
My kids are a disaster.
Right.
But before that, you're just on the go all the time.
Right.
So your nervous system, when you are constantly going and you're never letting it flex down into more of this neutral, balanced out state, you can destroy your nervous system that way. It doesn't have to be
a trauma.
I
guess that's what I'm getting at, because I feel like some listeners will relate to you and I, right? Maybe they've had a divorce or something traumatic or even worse, childhood, like serious trauma. But some listeners will not have had that experience. And I feel like people don't understand the gravity of regulating your nervous system regardless. One thing that I think is interesting, the older I get, I feel like I realize there's so many things that I should know, and I feel like we're just not taught. Like, you're not taught much about hormones. So you get into menopause and think, holy shit, you know. I was never taught much about my nervous system, specifically the vagus nerve. And now all of a sudden I'm learning that it's like a really big deal. Like, do you feel like most people don't know this stuff?
Well, there's a lot of interesting information out there about, especially with like the polyvagal theory. So that's
a new thing I learned.
Something that I use a lot in how I understand a particular person's nervous system and how they show up. But they talk a lot about early childhood development and our attachment with our caregivers and our ability to self-regulate and self-soothe, and how that actually is learned from our first caregiver.
So that impacts your nervous system.
That helps. I think we're all born with different nervous systems
Okay.
in different capacities to stressors in our environment. Like, some people have more sensitive nervous systems with a smaller threshold before we.
And that probably has a little bit to do with genetics, I would imagine, just
genetics,
like everything else.
If your mother was stressed when she was pregnant with you, cortisol, things like that, all kind of play a role in shaping your nervous family history, generational stuff.
So it's almost like a personality. So you get a nervous system, and then the nervous system interacts with the world.
Right. And it could be like a stimulus, for example. So like your environment has all sorts of stimulus in it, like the light coming in. Some people are overstimulated by light, and some people are like, yeah, you could just shine a flashlight in my eye and I would never care. So they have different thresholds to the stimulus and their interpretation of that.
Got it.
How that information comes in. So how we naturally and instinctually learn how to self-regulate and balance ourselves out really comes from our initial environment, the people in it, the connection, the attachment, the ability to express emotions, movement. And traditional school, for example, like, we put kids in desks. We say, be quiet. This person's talking. You can't go to the bathroom. So we're almost like detaching children from basic needs very early on.
In
touch with their needs.
Yes.
Their intuition to recognizing what their body is feeling, experiencing. Right. I need to go to the bathroom. Sorry, no, not right now. Or you need to wait, or whatever. Yes, we need to teach self-control and things like that, but it needs to be done in a way where we're also teaching children to be in touch with what their body is telling us. A lot of us are walking around completely detached mind-body connection, and we're all up in our heads. We're super analytical. We understand a lot of things, and we could say, I know why I have anxiety, and try to talk ourselves out of it, but the body is telling a different story. So really establishing and teaching people young what that mind-body connection is, what that is that you're experiencing in your body. Where are you feeling it in your body? What is attached to it? What is the story behind it? Because there's history behind most things that we experience. Most things that we experience is a stressor, like a bad stressor in our environment, probably has history behind it. Otherwise, it wouldn't stress you out in present day situations. So I do think that there's a huge gap in our childhood development of teaching self-awareness, mind-body connection, allowing natural intuition of what your body's asking for, and then naturally self-regulation would go with that. So you have to have the awareness first in order to be able to start to integrate self-regulation. But I would say a lot of us were raised by parents that probably weren't regulated themselves.
Right. Or at the very least didn't know anything about any of this.
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, there was not a lot of awareness.
So if we zoom out a little bit, I just want to make sure that the listeners, because it's a pretty complex subject.
It is, yes.
If we zoom out a little bit, I want to sort of look at the nervous system, kind of how important it is and what it impacts. And then I would like to look at the vagus nerve. So as far as the nervous system, what does it impact, like in terms of how we sort of like if your nervous system isn't regulated, what is that going to look like?
Yeah. So we have ways to kind of describe our state of our nervous system. And these are great tools because then people can look at themselves and be like, okay, what this looks and feels like is this. I'm dysregulated right now.
Okay.
And the part of the nervous system that we're even talking about is the autonomic nervous system. And that's what controls our reflexive ability to survive in our environment.
Okay.
So if we need to eat, our system shifts down to prepare to take food in, digest it, break it down. If we need to flex on because, we need to go to work and we need to perform, it should adequately and appropriately do that. But if we've overloaded it for a prolonged period of time, or we've had a major trauma that's really put us into some sort of survival state and we get stuck there because we're not flexing back out of it, or we're on the go all the time and we haven't learned how to recover properly or turn ourselves off and flex back out of that, we can get stuck in survival states.
What does that look like?
So excessive activation of the nervous system would be more sympathetic. So you'll hear terms like sympathetic overdrive or sympathetic dominant. It just means that your system is in more of that fight flight mode and it's not able to shift itself back out of it. So you're just riding there all the time.
And physically, what does that do to a person?
So you're going to have increased tissue tension. So a lot of people will always feel really tense in their body. Okay. You'll see people with tension patterns like clenching the jaw, tightening the shoulders, holding their breath, bracing through their stomach, bracing through their hips. You will see increase, like feeling overwhelmed. Anxiousness is there. Hypersensitivity. So it could be pain hypersensitivity. It could be you're hypersensitive to noise, light, smells, more irritable, hypervigilance.
And does it impact you like health-wise?
Yeah, so you're driving more inflammation.
Okay.
So if you think about if you go into a survival state because your system is reacting to some sort of stimulus, it almost guards itself and protects itself. So all the way down to the cellular level, the cells are doing the same thing. So if the cells are kind of protecting and armoring down, you're not getting good stuff in and you're not getting good stuff out. So if you have more tissue tension in your body, your lymphatic system, which detoxes and clears out your system, gets cut off. That fluid flow, your circulation, those fluid dynamics aren't doing what they need to do because the tissue is tensing over it. So what we want to do, and that's okay that your body has responded that way. We just don't want it to stay that way for a long period of time.
So it's more about the prolonged. I remember when my daughter was like in, I think, 4th grade, she went through like a really tough experience with OCD. And I would say for an entire year, I was just riddled with fear, super anxious, like learning this now and looking back on my life, I can think of so many times when my nervous system was just in a knot for an extended period of time. But what you're not thinking about as a mom is how is this impacting me from a health perspective? You're just like trying to get through it. And I can even feel if I look back on periods, I can remember feeling so physically fucked up, but just knowing I will deal with this once I get to the other side. But there's only so many times that I would imagine you can do that before you start to fall apart.
In the reality of parenting, we don't know when that is.
Right. I'm still waiting.
We don't know when that's going to be. And that was like my situation with my children, because we were in this like family court situation. You don't know when that's ending. And I was like, it'll be over with soon. I just have to get through this. And then I started seeing my children deteriorating because I was in survival all the time. And the reality is our nervous systems talk to each other. So if we're all in dysregulation, especially like who's coming to save us, right? Like I knew my situation. I didn't have control over it and I didn't know when it was going to end. So I could have chosen to just keep on trucking along like that. But the fact that my children needed to have a safety net, like a safe person or a safe feeling or energy around them in order for them to survive this, the only answer was for me to shift. So again, I was in an environment I couldn't leave, but I was still able to change my relationship with that environment to create a different outcome.
Okay.
By shifting my nervous system.
So if someone is in a tough situation like that, what are like 2 things that are relatively simple that they can do to help regulate their nervous system?
So one of the first things that you can do, and you started doing this for yourself, is stimulating the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve gives us direct access into the portion of the nervous system that helps to shift us out of fight or flight and back into that neutral, balanced out state.
Okay, tell it to us like we are in 3rd grade, because it's such a complex topic. It really
is.
So what is the vagus nerve? Because I've just learned it's like this huge fucking nerve that I didn't even know I had, that's apparently a really big deal. So,
well, I think they just started figuring out that the importance of this nerve, because we thought it just really controlled basic things like blood pressure and heart rate and some gut,
which are
health things, all important, but we just thought it was like a natural, like reflexive thing, and it's supposed to be. But over time, it can lose its ability to kind of flex on and do its job. So when you go in and you stimulate this nerve, you can shift your body.
Because I want to make sure everyone gets this. And first of all, make sure I get it. But when something happens, or your vagus nerve is supposed to sort of rise up and do its job, which is kind of to relax you.
Yeah,
right?
It's like emergency brake system on your fight or flight.
So if you've been active with a fucked up nervous system for a long period of time, your vagus nerve is kind of asleep.
It's basically
well,
it's like a muscle. Like if you don't use the muscle very much, or it doesn't get to flex on.
So it's like atrophied. So when you go through the thing, the vagus nerve doesn't rise up and do its job, so you're in trouble.
So what your body is supposed to do on its own, it just starts to lose its ability to over time.
Got it.
Because this nerve comes from the brainstem, travels down the sides of your neck, goes behind your chest bone and into your abdomen. So it's really, really all over your entire system. So, and they have seen like stimulating different portions of it helps to tap into different portions of your nervous system as well.
So by stimulating it every morning, you're sort of like waking it up, like, hello, let's get involved.
So you are basically reteaching your body to relearn how to balance itself back out naturally. So if I was just starting with someone, the first thing I have them do at home when they're not with me is activate their vagus nerve.
And do you need the stimulator to do that?
You do not. You can do it a lot of different ways. Breathing certain ways, focusing on your exhalation being longer than your inhalation, humming while you're breathing and exhaling, putting cold along the pathway of your vagus nerve.
And it's basically sort of right behind your ear is where you activate it.
Yeah. So the skin of your ear, it's very superficial. So lightly rubbing, pulling your ears, rubbing along your neck, putting vibration along there. I mean, not everyone has access to something like a vagus nerve stimulator device, which is a little pricier, but it's very effective.
I love that thing. I don't know what's happening, but I do. I don't know if it's that, the red light, the breathing, all the things I'm doing, but I definitely feel more relaxed in general.
So what we want is your foundational state, like your day-to-day, how I wake up, how I function, to be in that neutral zone as your baseline. So we want you there more than not there. That would be the ideal situation. And it sounds to me like just the fact that you're intentionally putting recovery into your day already taught your nervous system how to flex back off. But going in and then getting those portions of your body to flex on and off better is helping. But it's not to say that we never want to flex on. It's just we want our foundation like to stay in our neutral zone and then flex on when we need to and flex back off.
Meaning what exactly?
So flexing on would be, say you want to go exercise.
Oh, and you need to flex on.
You need to flex on.
Right. Okay.
But it needs to be appropriate to what the activity is.
So my mind says my son calls and says something terrible happens. That's not flexing on?
You can flex on to that. But you don't want to flex on so far that now you're going into a processing state where you're not making good decisions.
Right.
Or you're more reactive than responsive. You still want to stay, you want to flex on, but you won't want to excessively flex on to the situation.
And the point is you want to be able to flex off appropriately.
And then when the situation is handled and under control, you should be able to flex off.
Got it.
Now, if you aren't doing that, you're not able to, when you have moments of flexing on and you get stuck there, then we want to also stimulate the vagus nerve.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So you told me to do that. I was literally like waiting for a phone call from one of my kids because that's really what like gets me worked up. I've done it twice during it. So help me understand why I would want to use the stimulator during a triggering moment, let's say.
So when we look at triggers, we are typically over-responding to a stimulus.
Right. Okay.
And once we go into an excessive survival state, we're thinking more from a primitive brain, even though it feels very real to us and we feel like we're experiencing reality appropriately. But your responses to the situation are also going to be
extra
inaccurate. So we want to be able to stay in our reasoning brain. And the only way to do that is to keep your system more like appropriately responding.
So how does the stimulator do that? Is it that it sort of triggers you back to my every morning?
It's anchoring you back down to, so look at your nervous system like it's a window. Like, so the top end of the window is our fight or flight.
Yep.
Turning on. But we want to stay inside of what your window is. Like everybody has a different capacity we talked about with like some people's window is very small, so they don't handle very much before they become overwhelmed.
Yep.
Some people have very large windows, so you could throw anything at them and they would handle it and then flex on, flex off, and be back into their neutral zone and be fine. So if you are flexing yourself on so much, now you're spilling outside that window. That's where you're going to start making things that are going to be more reactive. The behaviors that you use are going to be probably whatever you learn to survive throughout your lifetime. So if it's to fight, if it's to lash out, if it's to shut down, if it's to freeze, any of those responses, and they're excessive because now we're not even handling our situation anymore.
Right.
Or we're making decisions that you probably wouldn't make if you were sitting in a nice neutral zone of your window.
And then you're creating inflammation.
Yes. At a physical part of it, you increase your tissue tension, decrease your fluid flow, increased inflammation, and your immune system is attached to this. Your gut health is attached to this as well.
I'm sure it does not help with aging. That's just a guess, but there's no way. Like if I feel like I'm aging rapidly when I'm in that. You know what I mean? It's like so intense.
Yes, definitely. Even things like you have more histamine, so people have more allergic responses or more sensitive to allergens. My children, like my son, had the worst allergies when he was the most stressed out and he was sick all the time, missing school all the time. So you can really see how it affects the body when you're in that state all the time.
Yeah. It's just wild to me how much is going on in there and how little we know. Like
I know. I think that.
You think that every day because people
well, some people will come into me and be like, I'm not stressed out, whatever. And then they realize what it feels like to truly not be stressed out.
Yeah.
But they've been stressed for so long, they don't even know
I think
what that feels like.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of us. I mean, I came to you because I had a fall. It's such a wild thing, like to say I had a fall. I feel like I'm 80 years old, but I apparently I had low blood pressure, low blood sugar, and fell because I basically passed out, lost consciousness, and ended up with 20 stitches in my face, very covered up with makeup today. But I, prior to that, wouldn't have said I'm stressed out necessarily. I feel like I get stressed out about my kids, but I didn't think that there was anything like happening inside that was alarming. But after that, my husband basically wouldn't let me out of the house. So I ended up relaxing for weeks and doing the vagus stimulator and doing all these things. And I can't believe what a difference it's made. So I don't think I would have told you that I was necessarily dysregulated, but being forced into regulating has given me the opportunity to kind of see both.
Right. And
so I think a lot of people are in that. Maybe they haven't fallen and bust their face open, but a lot of people are in this situation where they don't really know how stressed they
usually they don't know until their body's screaming at them, when we could have gotten to, like we could have prevented it from getting to that point. Right. But people will come in already with like multiple systems of their body, like hormones, gut, anxiety, pain all over, when it probably started years before.
Until things are
right. And then they're like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense, everything that you're saying. So,
and it's also, you don't know what came first. Like, I don't know because apparently I have Sjogren's syndrome, which is basically like a drying autoimmune disorder. So it's like, did that come first, or, did that contribute to the low blood pressure, or, kind of like what happened first? Did all of this stress and anxiety and all that stuff, did it kind of all lead me down that path? It's kind of hard to figure out.
It's like drops in a bucket.
Right.
You don't know. It's multiple things. We never get sick or injured or whatever from one thing.
Right.
Like it's multiple things: the environment, the experiences, the exposure to toxins, the not detoxing, the whatever. It's all drops in the bucket, and you just never know what drop in the bucket is going to be the one that overflows your bucket.
Right.
So when I work with people, I want to try to make space in their bucket. So one of the biggest impacts is the nervous system, but we can look at other things too and say, like, where can we make a little bit more space, a little bit more capacity to handle your life and your environment better without overflowing it?
Right. Yeah, the nervous system, I mean, it's wild how much it controls and how much it contributes to your physical decline if you're not in touch with it. I mean, it's kind of like a quiet, slow unraveling.
Yeah. So I think the thing I found most important is really teaching people how to reattach to their body, to be aware of that. And now that you've regulated yourself, you're much more aware.
I guess I'm regulated. Am I? Like, how do you know? Is there a regulation test? Like,
you can see it in a lot of different ways. So when you look at, you can even feel it in people's body language when they're more dysregulated versus regulated.
And then are you regulated in the morning because you do all this stuff, and then you become dysregulated as life happens?
I mean, some people wake up dysregulated.
Right.
So I used to wake up spiraling.
I used to wake up like, oh, that's one of the worst.
Spiraling. And then I'd basically have to dig myself out of the hole just to be somewhat stabilized to then go into work and take on all the things. So it was
only to get a call from school.
An uphill climb from the way I was waking up, which really starts the night before, how I'm going to bed. So making adjustments to all of that. So now I wake up totally fine, clean slate. So now my space in my bucket, I have a lot more space to handle what the full day brings, instead of already being totally dysregulated and trying to get out of that for the day. So That's like where we talk about drinking enough water. Because if you're dehydrated, you're in more of that survival state, more fight or flight, more sympathetic. So if you're drinking enough water, now you just create more space in your bucket. So like if you have a stressful life and you have a lot of things to show up for, don't waste your ability to handle that on things like dehydration or not eating enough food or whatever. So because you can create more capacity to handle the stress if you're doing those things for yourself.
Okay. So give me 2 things to do at night and 2 things to do in the morning that aren't that hard and could change, be.
So morning, I love it when people start off with some sort of vagus nerve stimulation.
Okay. So I have the stimulator, which I highly recommend, and we will link in this podcast. But if they don't want to purchase that, what are 2 things that they could do instead?
So you can, another option is having like a ball that vibrates.
Okay.
Much more cost effective.
Okay.
So using vibration over the path of your vagus nerve, or you can take an ice cube or something like, a chunk of frozen ice and put that along the path of your vagus nerve. So starting around your earlobe and traveling down towards your collarbone on both sides. Humming. So long exhalations with a hum, like a hum or a voo noise, because that activates your vagus nerve. And you just want to focus on about 5 minutes a day
side.
to start.
Okay.
To start. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to get really good at self-regulation, you start doing those activities around a trigger or a stressor. So if you can feel your system shift in response to an event throughout the day, like an experience with a person that really sets off your nervous system, your child is losing their shit.
If you knew that somebody's coming over that sets off your nervous system, would you do it before?
I would self-regulate before. I would activate my vagus nerve before. If I'm going to go on stage and give a presentation, I want to be activated, but I want to be like completely detached because I just got like too nervous for it or something. I want to be excited, not like anxious or nervous. Right.
Okay.
So I would self-regulate or stimulate my vagus nerve before that activity so that my system was already prepped for the experience. But if something is already going on and you're already in it, then trying to use self-regulation in the moment or as close after is going to start to shift how your body is experiencing those stressors.
Okay.
So I used to have an experience where I'd have to go pick up my children, transition nights. If you share homes with people, your kids transitioning back to your house is terrible sometimes. They are super, super dysregulated. They have to come back and shift back to how your house works. So I would be so activated around that. I would be shaking. My body would physically be shaking. I started doing vagus nerve stimulation as I'd go pick them up. And I literally have no reaction whatsoever. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go get
So what
my
do you
kids.
think specifically that does?
So it's retraining my body, how my body wants to respond to what it learned was a terrifying stressor.
Okay.
So my system wired that as, this is terrible. This is terrifying. I don't know what to expect. It's going to be a disaster, whatever. All that was running through my mind all the time. But the reality is we don't know that. It could be fine, So I was trying to reteach my system to be balanced out when I showed up. So it's literally changing how my body was responding to that particular experience, whatever. So as I kept practicing that over and over, it started wiring that response to the experience rather than the historical response to the experience. So it completely shifted how my body was interpreting that stressor or input. So now it's not a stressor to me anymore. So I reshaped that in my system.
Amazing.
But I had to do it as close to the experience as possible because I was teaching my body a new pathway of how to respond.
Do you think that hormones play a role at all in the nervous system, or how is there any interaction between, so as a woman ages, does any of that change?
Yeah. So we tend to be in more sympathetic already as women, meaning more fight or flight, more sensitive
Mm-hmm.
in our nervous system, but hormones and menopause changes our capacity to handle stressors as well.
Lowers your capacity.
Right. So you're
so
more
closes the window, right? So you could argue then that it's even more important to, as you go into perimenopause, probably. I mean, perimenopause, that window's getting tight.
Yeah. I mean, when you start having issues with like your estrogen levels and I mean, all of those are essentially, those hormones are what signal everything in our system. So if they're a little off balance, then our system's going to be off balance, and it's a two-way street. So if we're living a life where we're super, super stressed, and then we're dumping more adrenaline and cortisol, and then that has an effect on our other hormones. So it's like this. So we don't need to know what the chicken or the egg situation, what came first. What we can do is just go in and break it with like vagus nerve stimulation.
So literally 5 minutes a day can totally impact your nervous system.
Yes. So 5 minutes a day in the morning.
Yeah.
If you want to be really diligent and you are aware of when your body is responding to triggers,
then you do.
You can do it around those particular experiences. Nighttime, if you notice you also struggle in bedtime, that tends to be a struggle for people that are on the go all the time, because it's
meaning
stillness.
Being able to calm down and go to sleep.
Have quiet or stillness.
Well, they must not be on progesterone, because I am knocked out.
I think, well, you see a lot of people still fill their pre-bedtime with like scrolling or things like that, because their mind doesn't want to sit in like quiet or stillness. I often have my clients try to establish some sort of bedtime routine so that we're going to bed regulated. So then we're more likely to wake regulated.
It almost feels like, do you remember when your kids were tiny, it was bath bottle bedtime? Like the whole concept was
that routine helps
that when
them.
They smelled the lavender and they heard the sound machine, their body knew that it was time to go to bed.
Yes. It's a signal. It's a signal to your brain. That it's bedtime. So that's why in my house, I turn the lights down low by a certain time, and my kids just kind of automatically start migrating to their little bedtime areas, whatever. Cause I'm like,
cool.
Signals, right? So in your, however you want your routine to look, but if you're having a hard time going to bed and just being still or quiet with yourself, journaling, or if you're someone who goes to sleep and all the things are running through your mind, you need to put them somewhere. Get them out of you, put them in a container, or if it's, more emotional, like just scribbling onto a piece of paper to discharge it from your system, so you're not hanging on to that going to bed. I also like people to do some full body relaxation movements, some somatic movements, a lot of rhythmic rocking, laying on your back, rocking your knees, laying on your side and rocking, because it's soothing the system. So when the body feels safe, it can start to relax, the tissue tension goes down. We can
Isn't it wild that we don't teach people this earlier?
Yeah, it's
like, I'm just like, dang, I really
why did I have to be 40 to learn this?
Why did I have to be 51 and a face of stitches?
Why did I have to go through what I went through to learn this? But yes, I needed to go through that to get these tools.
Well, also, I think you needed to go through what you need to go through to be this passionate to help people, because you deliver it in a way that is really amazing, and I'm able to receive it. So I think that when you've been through your own stuff, it just carries a different weight,
Yes. No, I really think that this work, and also working with, really skilled trauma therapists, for example, I think combining this work with all different professionals, hormone gut health professionals combined with this, performance combined with it, but working especially in the trauma world combined with it, because we go into deep, dark places in the trauma world to process from the top down, but our body is really smart and will create resistance around that. So sometimes we can only go so deep, but when you instill some safety back into the system, it allows the gates to open, and then you can actually go deeper and start processing a lot more.
Right.
So, preparing your body for bed is a great tool too for, nighttime stuff. But
so preparing your body for bed, upon wakening, activate your vagus nerve, either with a stimulator or the ways you suggest. Anything else that's a takeaway?
I mean, everything that we're doing is really about creating safety back into our system. So if you are having a hard time fully healing from something, if you've been dealing with chronic pain, chronic illness, physical manifestations of anxiety, depression, things like that, trauma, if you're trying to tap into higher levels of performance, your system has to feel safe to access those things. And the vagus nerve is a great way to signal safety back into your body. There's a lot of other things we can do. This is really complex and a deep conversation of like options and variety of tools and things like that. But that is probably the easiest, most accessible way to do that, and gives the power back to the person to do that for themselves.
And I think starting with that stuff is great, because you also have to have a little buy-in personally. Like you have to feel it a little bit to kind of really want to go down the whole journey of figuring the rest out, I don't know, that vagus nerve stimulator is really intrigued me to want to know more, because it's like, wow, if you can just do this 5 minutes a day and feel this, what
the
else
last
is out
thing
there?
So the immediate effect, it works immediately. That's the best part about this. I have people that have had chronic pain and issues for years and years and years and never had help, and within 10 minutes of shifting their system into safety, they're like, wow, I feel
it works
amazing.
very, very quickly with anxiety, because I'll wake up with anxiety a lot. And now that I'm doing that, I do that 5 minutes on each side, and then I'll do my red light therapy. I mean, I'm like floating around.
I think that's the most amazing part. It's like so quick, so you can experience it right away. So then it makes you want to do it.
It also gives you more confidence in your ability to manage your mental health.
Yes. Like instead of you being like dragged behind the bus, like you are now the driver of the bus. Like, doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means now you have the ability to do something about it. And it's very, very easy to do if you can like convince yourself of where you're at, have awareness of that, and then just implement those tools. It can shift things very quickly. So very powerful.
That. So if somebody wants to shift their vagus nerve, learn more about your practice, cupping, acupuncture, dry needling, all the exciting stuff you do, where can they find you?
So I really like being on Instagram. So Instagram's a great way. That's dr.lauren DeCicco, DPT. I do have a website. It is optimize-movement.com. I do have a new website coming soon. And I do in-person appointments, but I also will be doing virtual consultation and coaching and programming as well.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to make my next appointment. And thank you for coming on Cake for Dinner.
Thank you for having me.